Good morning. It's Sunday the 14th of June. Weather-wise, we had a beautiful time throughout May. The start of June was okay, and then we've had rain literally for over a week here in the northeast of England. Rained virtually for 24 hours non-stop, and all the polytunnels were flooded out. But plants in them seem to grow okay. What I have noticed, I've had to disbud a little bit more than usual. But we'll walk through and I'll show you what I'm doing at the moment, what I'm feeding with. What I'm, how to just keep on top of things in general. I'm in the greenhouse at the bottom of my garden at the moment. This is an aluminium 24 foot by 10. It is heated, but this time of the year obviously we don't need any heating. This is where mainly I grow begonias and Coleus. We'll take a look. I'll just turn the camera around. Right, on this bench, we're coming to the tail end now, but here we have the Mocha series. These are begonias. Moving on to the trailing varieties. These are still to go up into tubs and baskets. We'll take a look at some tubs, a few Coleus left, but we'll take a look at some of them that's a little bit further on. Right, what I do, I usually put 3, possibly 4 plants if they're on the small side. They go into tubs and they come up. They are full doubles, they're all little singles on the side, but they do produce a large double flower and they're absolutely beautiful. I've got them in several different colours here. These are just in 12-inch flower tubs. Different colours. This is just a non-stop, the normal coloured leaf. The mochas are the dark foliage. There's some nice yellow ones there. Just starting to shape up nicely. Moving on, this is the actual trailing variety. They grow up right and then they have cascading flowers. This is Star Shine, and this one's Apple Blossom. I have mixed as well. Over the back, this is a lovely variety. It gets masses of flower on. It's already had a very heavy flush of flowers on and starting to produce a second one. I had quite a few of those, but mainly they've all gone. Moving on, this is one of the Coleus tubs. Different colours, different varieties. We will move in and take a look. This is just plants still in small 10cm pots, ready to go out. We'll take a look in the greenhouses and the polytunnels. We'll come back to the hanging baskets and I'll show you what we're doing with the baskets at the moment. Moving up into the very top one. This is a stock bed with leeks, mainly Blanche leeks and pot leeks. This is for the show bench. And a lot of heads are still completely closed. As we see, this is the sheath on the heads. You can see by those. We are just getting some starting to open. You'll take notice there's a lot of flowering plants in here, and you'll see bees flying all over. I've got the first beehive in now for pollination. That's a head that's opened early. I'm not keen on that head. It will probably be destroyed. It's too early for me. Most of them are still nice tightly closed, but we have got odd ones opening up there, and they're looking kind of decent. So what I'm looking for is both seed and grass. There's the bees working up on the top there, if you can see it. This is starting to produce a nice seed head. We've got a nice seed head here. They're not ready really for the bees because there's not much pollen on there as yet. We'll just remove that. But they'll open up and they'll produce a large allium head, and the bees will get to work on there and they will do their duty. But plants in here are looking very good. It's also nice to see the flowers, and I love to see the bees working. They come in here and they collect all the pollen. There's bees moving all over the place here. I've got a beehive outside which we'll take a look at. It has 25,000 bees in it. A lot of them will be dispersed at the moment, but funnily enough, they come out from dinner time a lot more heavy. Yesterday I actually put a small post on Facebook. There was a few hundred bees actually out on the hive, and you could see them buzzing all over. But they're getting here. This is borage. Nice little blue flowers. They do like that. There's bees working up there now. But we see there's bees flying all over. These heads aren't open. Take you down to the plant. They're starting to produce bulbs on the bottom. They will produce king pods, which will produce secondary growth for next year, and they'll produce more stock for next year's plants. Some cosmos in there, and again the bees like the cosmos as well. Moving on to this side, these beds. I'm going to, later on, I am going to put a second video on today of the greenhouse up in the back garden. This is in a polytunnel, and we'll just take a look along here. I do like growing in tunnels, and the tunnels give me a lot of extra space, but obviously these aren't heated in the early stages. They're not heated at any time of the year. They were quite warm. I've now opened the end vents up. These are windows all the way along the back and sides. They let plenty of air through, but it shows you the plants will grow. You'll get a good crop out of here. The only problem being these were planted before the tomatoes up in the greenhouse, and the tomatoes in the greenhouse have got automatic heating system which automatically switches on if it's cold on an evening, and those tomatoes up in the top have certainly passed the ones down the bottom here. You can look back on the videos that I've made, and you will see I did prepare these beds. We did put I think in here I put fish blood and bone behind me on these stock beds, and I'm certain I put John's base fertilizer onto these beds. So up to now the plants haven't been fed, they've only been watered. They do need to be fed from now on because they're just starting to produce fruit. This is a variety called Riesling. It's a plum tomato. I've never grown it before. We'll follow it through and see how they perform. At the moment these plants are, well, approaching 4 foot, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trusses and a little flower on the top. So they're coming up to 7 trusses. I go through here regularly moving side shoots. What we also need to watch for is anything that produces another growth off the end of here, off the end of these trusses, which we will keep an eye on. I maybe come across some today. What I am going to switch to with this, any fertilizer high in potash will do for these. Phosgene would do, to any tomarite or tomato feed. What I have is maxi crop tomato feed, which is a seaweed based fertilizer with potash added, and that's what I will be feeding on. There's a side shoot. Remove that. So just keep on top of your tomatoes, keep them tied in well. Make sure they don't dry out. If they dry out, you will get blossom end rot. Make sure you don't overwater, otherwise you'll get a little bit of ghost spot. My wife looks after the ones up in the top greenhouse. She does an excellent job. She used to water through the nursery, so she knows what she's doing, and she usually does a good job of them. But we've had some very damp, humid conditions in the last week or 10 days, and there's a tiny bit ghost spot at the top, which I will show you. Chives, lettuce all the way along. This is later lettuce. Chives. Moving along, different varieties. Here we have Red Dragon, some a little bit further on at the end. I have Maisie in here. This is Moneymaker. A little bit of curl, but that's just through the cold at night. Moneymaker's got plenty of trusses on. It's got lovely thick stems, but it's not as good a producer as Red Dragon. There we are, Red Dragon. This is Moneymaker, and as you see, it's not as good. It's an old-fashioned variety. People still ask for it, but it's not one of the better varieties now. Plenty of trusses on there, plenty of flowers on the truss, should I say. Oh, this has moved on to Gardener's Delight. Gardener's Delight is still one of my favourites. It's a lovely flavour tomato. With these, if we look at the foliage, there's little growths coming off the foliage, producing new plants. So you need to remove those as well. I'll probably just cut the leaves off at a later date, but these are growing on out of the leaf, top of the leaves. Let's see, there's 1 or 2 little suckers in here. Just keep on top of them. It doesn't matter how often you come, you'll always find something to pull off. Chives, we've been cropping chives for a while. Here we are moving on to the this is Red Dragon. It's performing quite well. They haven't been fed as yet. The fruit could be a little bit larger, but I'm told it's not a really large fruited variety, but it is a very nice fruited variety. That's more of an intermediate, but they're growing very well with lots and lots of fruit on. I haven't stopped, these have been stopped, sorry, and I've stopped them at about 7 trusses. So they're doing well. As I say, I will be feeding from now on. Basil's doing well. If the basil starts to flower, just pinch it out. It'll produce side shoots. Smells beautiful. Yeah, I love the smell of the basil. We'll move down the next tunnel. Along here, in this one, I have a few peppers, which are, this is jalapeno. That's still in the plant pot actually. That I picked some courgettes yesterday from the ones we have planted out. And under here we've got a few peppers starting to form. Doing alright. The lettuce have been superb in here. This was all iceberg type. They've been very good. It was just put in front of a bed of stock plants. But as we see, these stock plants are really good. I'm very pleased with them. These are leeks again, all the way up. And all the way along there, there's quite a few heads looking very good. I did mention in this bed about mare's tail. I had a bad infestation of mare's tail last year, and it's difficult to get rid of. I haven't sprayed, I've just kept on working with the hoe. You'll see the weeds do come through. It's a never-ending battle with weeds. Obviously just the small nettles and that just pull out, but as you see there, that's the start of mare's tail again. And all I've done with the mare's tail, every time I've seen a piece, that's snapped, so it will come again. It'll come two heads, but every time it pops through, I just snap it off, pull it out, do my best. There's a one there. They are getting weaker every time I pull them out. The root's getting smaller all the time. You see it has a long root, it has a very long root, but I'm hoping that I will just slowly exhaust it, and they will eventually beat the problem. Spring onions, I've had some superb spring onions. Look at the size of these. This is Guardsman. These are standing almost 3 foot tall. They've been very good, so we've had lots of stir fries with spring onions and in salads spring onions. Very good, we're very pleased with them. This bed had a lot of lettuce, which have all been cropped now, just about finished. If ever you leave a stump in and don't cut it off, it will produce a second little flush, but it'll not produce big heavy hearts, but it's okay for salads. But we've now got the top greenhouse starting to take over with the veg, the salad crops. Right, moving into here. This is a bed of seedlings, Leek Seedlings. So I'm looking for new varieties, and there's one or two shaping up very nice in here. I'm quite pleased with them. I haven't cleaned them up as yet. They've been put in and left as they were planted. They are doing okay. Moving on, this is the Yorkshire Giant, and again they're looking kind of decent. They've come away very well. At the present moment these are around about 11 inches around. These are pot leeks all the way along. Moving up onto some white hanging baskets. These are just 12-inch plastic pots. We look at some good baskets soon. Moving over here, sweet corn. It's starting to colour up now and it's starting to grow. These are in the old leek beds. Again, they're in barrows, 5 to a barrel. It's old compost that's in here. It was just fortified with a little bit John and Space fertiliser. If you remember, about a week back, I only planted these maybe a fortnight ago. These are climbing French beans, and we already look, they're well up the stem there. So these are approaching 3 foot high in the space of a week or so. Growing very well, quite pleased. That's the courgettes. We cut some off here. There's another one almost ready there, but plants doing very well. Again, at the moment they're not being fed, but they will get fed with the maxi crop with tomato feed in. Right, I've got a few baskets in here. These are Fuchsia Baskets. This is known as the Trixies that we get. 3 different varieties of one plant in a cutting, and there are in a plug, and there are 9 plants in that particular basket. That's a plastic basket. People say, you know, they don't like plastic baskets. I don't know why, because you can't see the basket as the plants grow. These are a good 2.5 foot across. Calabrese is pretty good because it sheds its own flower, so this budding's less and less, but that's a bud. These are buds, they're not spent flowers. There's a spent flower in there. You can nip them off, but they will just drop off themselves. The bees are on here working as well. Moving along here, we look at some, these are the trailing, these are wicker baskets, 14-inch. There's 5 begonias to a pot. They haven't long been potted, but they will be nice. Moving further along, these are just 12-inch baskets, and these have got 3 non-stop begonias in. Again, most of them are mocha varieties, but as you can see, they're looking quite kind of nice. Moving along here, this side, these are mixed ones. This is Starshine trailers, mixed ones. And the Fuchsia baskets are coming along very nicely. As you can see, the basket itself is just a plain green plastic basket, but the plants are doing very well. That's a 12-inch basket. Those plants are almost 2 foot across, shaping up very nicely. They've been pinched several times and they're just starting to bud up there, as we can see somewhere here. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. And there, just starting to show signs of bud on that particular variety, which I think is Jean Taylor. It's a nice variety. La Campanella, it's one of the earlier ones. It's a small flowered double, very nice. Again, looking very nice, starting a flower. There's only the one large basket left. I had quite a few Fuchsia baskets, but they've just about all gone. Just to show you what we can do, you don't need multi-planted baskets to make nice baskets. This is a Bacopa. It's a new double variety, and the variety is Ballerina Snowball. It's a full double one. Flowers are beautiful on it. It has a lovely scent. It's not a sweet scent, it's like a herby smell, but very, very nice, and there's thousands of buds on there. And again, there is 3 plants in that basket, and that's a 12-inch. Yeah, that's a 12-inch basket, and that's at least 2.5 foot across. They're going to be really big when they come into flower. Moving across. My baskets are watered every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. They should be getting fed. They should be getting a high potash feed. At the moment, all they've had is a balanced feed, but now that they're full on like this, they will be getting potash from now on. So again, a maxi crop tomato feed will do well. That's your single Bacopa, looking very nice. They are mixed with double Calabricia and Lobelia on the top, so they're red, white and blue for the patriotics. All white. Just keep a look all the time. Every time I pass, I look for something to nip off. Just tiny little flowers here, but if they're starting to go off, nip them off. The more you nip off, the more it will produce. Moving on to fully mixed baskets. Now there's only 3 varieties, different varieties of plant in here, and we've got like a dark cerise Calabricia, Petunia and Lobelia in the middle. And I believe these are 14-inch baskets, and there's 9 plants in there, and you can see they are easily 3 foot across, and the basket's pretty difficult to see now. In another week or two and you'll not be able to see the basket at all. So again, they produce good baskets. Water regularly, dehead, take off any flowers that you always miss something. I've been in here this morning and I have taken them off, but look, there's a one there. Once it goes soft like that, it's finished. Don't get mixed up and think that something like this is to come off. It's not. They are buds, so don't get mixed up. There's another one right on the top, just starting to go soft. Remove it. If you remove them in the early stages, they're all more quick to reproduce and put new flowers on. So as we can see, baskets are doing very well. Some further down we'll take a look at. Right, looking at the pot leeks, once again exhibition. This is Cumbrian. They're growing away very nicely. These leeks were all put the same position in the bed, and they are twisting around, and they're not lying in the same position. I think they follow the sun. Some people say always plant north to south, others say east to west. I just plant across the beds. These beds run east to west, so the leek is actually planted north to south, but as you can see, they twist in different directions, so it doesn't make much difference. They're all doing okay, all a decent size. These are transplants. I did pull some out and replace with small plants, and they've got a hold. They are flying away now. A little bit of difference in size, but they'll come along. There we are, a nice typical Cumbrian. That one's twisting in the centre, so that will not be kept for stock. But as we move along, very nice. There's another one along here which I've actually pulled out today, and we're just going to take a look down the hole. You can see all the roots that it had made. There's roots in there, and this is a 6 litre hole I've dug, ready to drop a new plant in it. The centre had gone funny on that particular plant, so out it goes and a new one in its place. Eating onions, growing very well. I'll just show you these baskets because they're quite impressive. 3 foot across. Again, that's a 12-inch plastic basket, and they are 3 foot across, and the flowers are absolutely beautiful on them. That's a double Calabrese dark red, very nice. I'll come across some big white ones later. Red barren onions, growing well, just starting to bulb up. Will not be long, we'll be hitting the longest day. I would expect the onions to start bulbing. They've made plenty of framework and they should grow away very nicely and produce some nice bulbs for keeping during the winter. Diacia is looking good. Again, Diacia sheds its own flower, so it's not too bad for disbudding. But we look at the plants here, we see some flowers to be disbudded. Keep your petunias disbudded because they will produce more flowers and better plants for you. So again, water, feed and deadhead. All the way along the onions, all looking good. Constant battle with weeds. This is weeded twice a week. I just do it by hand. You'll damage the roots if you try and put a hoe through there. But they're looking quite good and I'm quite pleased with those. This is an exhibition onion bed, but I didn't plant any exhibition onions in it because I thought there would be no shows. It is coming out now. There are 1 or 2 shows starting to stick their heads up. That's a few late exhibition plants which someone didn't collect. My intention was sticking a few on the end of here, but as you see, it's still full of basket bedding. I still haven't got round to doing my baskets up on the car park. Right, we'll move inside here. Radishes jumping out the top. We'll be picking those in another week, I think. These are dwarf beans. They're not climbers, they'll not grow much higher, and they're starting to produce a little bit of flower, so they'll not be long and they'll be producing small beans to pull. Moving along. These are all new tomato plants to me, new varieties. They're all doing fairly well. They were very late set, very late in being planted, and I'm quite happy. They're doing well. Plenty of trusses on them, nice thick stems. Again, these are in barrels because this was a Blanche Leek bed which I decided not to bother planting up because I don't think the shows will be on. We've missed a large sucker there. Now I'm not going to try and snap that. Whoops, it snapped off anyway. I was going to say I would cut it off rather than snap it, but it snapped straight off, so that's no problem. I will go along removing these, the bits that I nip off and put down. So again, all doing fairly well. As they start to produce fruit, we will, nice cucumber there, just on a small plant, but that's just about ready to be taken up to the house. We will report on the flavour and how good these plants have cropped. Again, just keep on top of the side shoots as you come through. Producing plenty of trusses, just starting to fruit up there. Sun cherry. Again, as you can see, side shoots. Keep regular watering and keep regular taking side shoots off. They snap off very easily. Here's a young plant. Really, I shouldn't let the cucumbers come on as soon as this. I would prefer to let these plants get up a bit bigger. But as I've said before, I usually take my plants to 3 foot high, the cucumbers, pinch the centres out and then take side laterals off and let the cucumbers hang on there. But this year I'm just cropping all the way up the main stem. Again, back on the new varieties of tomatoes. So they're all doing fairly well. Moving on to Blanche Leeks. When I first planted these, we had a lot of problems in the greenhouse with this type of thing. This is Clan Edwin. It's Ivor Mace's breeding. 2 years ago I had really good leeks off these. They made 18 to 20 inches in length. I only grew 4. 18 to 20 inches in length, about 9 to 10 inches in circumference. this year they're struggling badly to make length. Beautiful big foliage on them, as you can see. It's looking good, but the marking that I had on in the early stages, all this marking is disappearing. It's, you know, nice and clean foliage now. We have got a little bit of thrip damage on those, but I'm on top of it every well, so I would expect these will come clean as well by short time. So they're decent. I've got 18-inch collars on there, and at the moment the plants, the buttons are struggling to get around 10-12 inches, which is a different kettle of fish on the other leeks that I'm growing. Here we move on to the Welsh seedling. Welsh seedling's doing very well. I have cleaned these up in the last week. A week or two back I put 24-inch collars on these. They're only getting watered. I don't feed any of my leeks once they're in the beds. A lot of people say, you know, what do I actually feed leeks with to make them bigger? If you've prepared your beds right, you shouldn't need to feed, just water to get them growing nicely. Feeding is one of the problems that people do, where they split their plants and they don't win their shows. If we remember, when I first planted out, the leaves, they were a lot shorter than this, and the leaves come up and they stood over this first training bar. They've grown up now, they're all over the second training bar, as we can see. And what I'll probably do is remove this bottom one. We'll just move along a tiny bit here. There we are. I'll remove that. I've jumped to that one, but I'll put the bottom one up above that. Maybe it's one, maybe it's 2 hoops above, ready to take the next leaves, as we can see, because they're starting to come up even higher. So these will be almost 3 foot high by the time we do that. So that's a Welsh seedling, looking good. 24-inch collars on there. At the moment they're stood around about the 17 inches in length. Not too bad. Moving along, the pendle. This is probably the yardstick to grow from. The pendle's won most of the shows. It is a good leek. Not quite as long. I've just turned these collars around. They were on 18-inch, and I've just moved them up. These were all 16 inches or above, so I've just moved them up now to the 24-inch. These probably will not make 24-inch. I'll probably have to reduce them back down again. But at least it'll help to pull them up. I'm hoping 18 or 19 inches with the pendle. Moving further down, we're now on to RMG. This is Ronnie Gill's leek. It's looking very promising. Again, these were making length in the early stages, and we lifted these fairly early, so they're doing quite well. Nice looking plants, and 24-inch collars on here. Quite happy with them. We've managed to get rid of the thrip altogether on these plants, on most of the plants. Right, moving around. This is a stock house. For all, my main thing obviously are vegetables, leeks and onions mainly. I do like to grow a lot of other stuff, and I love to grow basket plants, hanging baskets. I like to see nice things in the garden. These are Impatian tubs, begonia tubs. A few Trixies left. Here we move on to the Coleus. This is a new variety which I seen in the trial grounds last year. The actual variety is Flamethrower. This one is Salsa Roja. There is Salsa Verde and Salsa Habanero. That's the Verde, the green one. These are large plants, almost 2 foot across now, and as you can see, they're shaping up nicely. This variety will get a little green tinge to it all the way through as it matures. Still young plants at the moment. This one will end up like a flame colour orange. That's a Habanero. I did like this. It's a different shape foliage to the other Coleus, which I've grown for years. I do like Coleus, and they produce some superb plants, but as you can see, these are going to be stunning colours, and we'll see these as they grow throughout the season. Some I actually just potted up yesterday, still haven't properly got a hold. And then we move on to stock plants, stock leeks. Onions, the stock onions are doing very nicely, and as we can see, there are bees floating around on the, I don't know if you can see that. The bees are hovering around on the flowers which we have in here. Yesterday this whole house was actually humming with bees. They're quite placid and quite calm at the moment. They are on the flowers taking pollen at the minute. They're not on the onion heads, because the onion heads aren't quite ready. They're all producing flower heads. If I can get in close to one, you can see there's no actual pollen on there yet, but one or two just starting. There's a one up there. I don't know if you can see that. That's high up, it's way up higher than me. I'm maybe 7 to 8 foot high, that. But there's a head on there with pollen just shown, and the bees, in another couple of days, the bees will be on that particular head. They like allium heads as well, so they'll go on there no problem. All along the back is stock leeks. Again, they are all off the king pods. You can see the, again, bees over there. Moving along, that's the white wedding basket. That basket at the present moment, there's only 1, 2, 3 varieties of flower in there, but I think again 9 plants. That's a 14-inch basket, and that's well over 3 foot across, with the bee stuck right in the middle there. Don't know if you can see the bee in that one. So the bees do come and make use of the baskets as well, but that's going to be quite a stunning basket. And leek plants are all for stock. Black and orange basket with a little bit helichrysum in the top. Again, looking nice. The colours go well together. I always try and do different combinations, try and see what they look like. This one we've got silver dichondra, silver trails in it, just starting to grow nicely, and I filled that up with black calabricia, so it'll be black and silver as it comes out. Still a little bit young. Moving further along, we can hear the bees as we move along. Working quite well there. As I say, there's plenty in here, doesn't matter where we look. There's 25,000 bees in this small hive which I have outside. This is a little portable hive that I borrowed from a friend of mine, Gordon. No movement there at the moment, but yesterday, within half an hour, we didn't get any sunshine, but the bees, as it warmed up, the bees swarmed out, and there was literally thousands. And I watched them work back and forward. You can just see them going in out of the little hole in the bottom there. They're busy and they're going in and out all the time, so they'll be carrying pollen back for the queen bee. Outside the pea pods, this is peas, beans with a few shallots in the middle and a tiny few stock plants at the far end. These have made a tremendous bed of peas. We haven't picked any as yet, but there is hundreds of pods on all the way up, and still hundreds of flowers to come. But these have grown almost 4 foot high. This is just Hurst green shaft. As you can see, they're all the way along. Beans on the opposite side. The beans are ready to pick. We have had a few off, but it's just the bottom ones. They are making their way up. Moving along, these are king pods, leek heads from last year. You can see I just planted them in here. These are Cumbrian, and they are looking quite nice. Further along, later set peas, and we move on to the giant cabbage. These will be well over 3 foot across. There's only 2. I may have to remove the end one because there's not the space in it. That bed over there had winter cabbage in it. They've self-seeded, and they've popped up cabbages all the way along it in the far bed. That's still to be done, and this polytunnel's yet to be finished off and recovered, which we'll have done for the autumn. Well, that's about it, folks. That's a look round today. I hope I haven't forgotten to mention anything with the growing methods. If you've any questions, pop them onto YouTube. Next time I do a video, possibly in a week's time, or even tonight, I'm going in the other greenhouse up in the back to show you the difference between the glass house and the polytunnels. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye bye now.